Marhaba and hello around the world to our brothers and sisters who are interested in and hoping to be of help to the Palestinian people living both in Gaza and the West Bank and occupied Jerusalem. It is Monday, March 13th, 2023. I'm historian and writer Dr. Jack Dempsey, and with me is my good friend Muhammad Jihad Ismael, a writer and historian from Gaza. He lives in Deir al-Balah with his beautiful young family. And we've been friends for about 2 years. And as you probably know, have been producing, well, quite a series. I think we're into 20 plus episodes now of these discussions about Palestine and Gaza, past and present, from its archaeological history to contemporary events. And it's the latter we'll be talking about today. Contemporary events, as you know, Palestine and Israel are much in the news and once again, much in conflict. We always say up front three things because people always ask, what can I do? What can I do? The first thing is write to your own government to demand a change in policy that will end either your government's indifference or active support for the apartheid regime in Israel, which has kept Muhammad, his family, and 2.5 million other Palestinians locked into Gaza for more than 15 years now. The second thing you can do is practice BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction. This worked in South Africa and elsewhere. All you have to do is avoid buying Israeli produced products and perhaps even buy some olive oil. You can get it online, produced by Palestinian farmers. This would be a great help to them and to try to keep what's left of their economy running during the continuation of this blockade. A third thing you can do, we call family to family. If you look at Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com, Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com, you will see photographs of Muhammad's original house, a one room for 5 people affair. And my wife and I, who've had many blessings in life, decided to send some funding to Muhammad's family so that they could expand this house into with another 3 rooms, very modern, with electricity and plumbing and a floor and all those great luxuries that we in the outside world tend to take for granted. In the process, and I should say, Muhammad and I first met through a book I published in 2017, I think it was, called People of the Sea. He contacted me, we became friends, and I can only tell you it's been one of the most rewarding friendships of my life. So what we do with family to family is put you in direct contact with Palestinian people, another family, or just individuals. Muhammad would be the one to help you to make that contact, and then via Zoom or other means of contact, if you want to, only if you want to, you can arrange to send some small bit of help, maybe monthly, $10 a month so they can buy medicine, $10 a month so that they can get some extra food or buy bottled water because they can't drink the water in Gaza. As you know, it's a lockdown, bombed out, toxic community. The water is undrinkable. The food is scarce because of the virtual rationing that Israel has imposed. They have maybe 8 hours a day of electricity. Every day is a crisis that most of us can hardly put up with for several hours when these basic services fail. And that's what Gaza goes through every day. And there is so little hope on the horizon for them. So please look at jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com. You will see wonderful photographs of Muhammad and his family as they're working together to improve their standard of living there in Gaza. And this is something you can do too. We only use Western Union, no NGOs, no banks, no government agencies involved, no profit involved. Neither he, I, nor anyone touches this money. You send it to them through Western Union, and every penny of it, you get to see its results in its direct and real effects in improving the lives of the people of Gaza over the wall. That means to confine them and to prevent them from having normal relations with the rest of the outside world. It's 25 miles long and 6 miles wide, Gaza, 2.5 million people. This is an average of about 5,000 people per square mile. That would match the population of Midtown London, England. So you can imagine how crowded and difficult it is there. And we really hope that you might consider doing this. It's called Family to Family. You can see all about it in the info below here today, as usual, and also at jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com. So, Muhammad, there is my now traditional introduction. I want to say hello to you, welcome, and thank you for being with us again. We're hoping to hear some news from the Palestinian side about the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis as it has been flaring up. We've heard that there are demonstrations of support from the main population of people in Gaza, and also some rather militant statements from Hamas about what they intend to do, little of it of any good, in response to these troubles. What would you most like to talk about today in terms of what's going on?
Hello, brother. I am so happy to be with you this evening and to talk with our friends and our viewers from all over the world. In fact, the recent days were full of events and news, whether in West Bank, in Gaza, and in Israel. Uh, Today, I think we have to speak about the recent updates, especially in West Bank, and their effects on Gaza. Uh, First of all, I think you know and you follow on media what happened in West Bank. West Bank these days, not only these days, but since so many months, West Bank each night has clashes, military clashes between the Palestinian military groups, military militias, and the Israeli army. As usual, most of the casualties are recorded in the Palestinian sheet. Because you know there is no balance. If you want to speak about the military means, there is no balance between the Israeli army, which is armed with the most modern Western missiles and aircrafts, tanks, etc., to the Palestinian fighters who are using primitive guns, pistols, grenades, etc., etc. Each week we have killed people in West Bank, especially in Nablus and Jenin, the hottest two spots in West Bank. Of course, this make some effect on Gaza. Gaza here sieged, as all the viewers know, is sieged since 17 years. Totally sieged and locked. It looks like the coffin or the box. No one can go inside it. No one can escape from it. People here in Gaza are showing sympathy with what happened with the people in West Bank and with what happened with them. So, in the recent days, we have some demonstrations started to take place here in Gaza. People used to demonstrate against the Israeli occupation, against the Israeli, as they call it, the Nazi practices of Israel in West Bank. Maybe something dangerous happened last week. Not only fighters who were killed, but beside that, so many civilians, children, women were killed and injured. This is the reason of Gaza demonstrations, because in last time the Israeli usage of power was something over the normal usage. I think Gaza is not ready for any confrontation with Israel, because you know the situation. People here are dead, not tired but dead, so they cannot fight. Uh, I I want to be frank with you and with our friends who are watching us. If you want to speak about demonstrations in Gaza Street, I say okay, we have demonstrations in the streets. But if you want to analyze those demonstrations, you will find the people who are participating, the demonstrators, most of them, more than 90% of them, are the followers of the parties, whether
See,
Hamas, Islamic Jihad, etc. But yeah, but the neutral, the not partisan people like me, we don't have any interest in such demonstrations, because for me as Muhammad, if if you want to ask me to participate in a demonstration, I will say okay, I am going with my brother, with my father, with my friends. I will pull them from their hands and I will take them to the street to participate in demonstrations. But I have condition. Our slogans would be, first of all, against our corrupted two governments, Hamas government and PA. Don't make demonstrations only against Israel. No, no, because in the other hand, if you just have any kind of thinking to make the same act against Hamas or PA directly, you will be arrested. So we haven't the right of we haven't the liberties of expressing your opinion, raising your voice. You cannot decide the type of demonstration you are going to launch. No, you are obliged to organize only one kind of demonstrations, which the demonstration against Israel, but against the corruption of Hamas and PA directly, you will be taken to prison. Yeah.
and I'd like to point out for our viewers, you see Muhammad's image is freezing here and there. And there we have had even whole programs interrupted or broken by this factor. But Gaza has a very low bandwidth for internet signals, and that is what is causing his image to freeze up now and then. And we really hope that, well, you can bear with that as they do every day. It seems almost inexplicable why they should have this problem in the high tech age, but it's no doubt a function of the same laws that prevent Palestinian people from receiving books. They can't even take a book from the mail. Letters, parcels. My wife wanted to crochet nice warm sweaters for his two little girls and his boy to keep them warm in the wintertime when they have so little or no electricity. You can't send them anything. So there is a definite deliberate program to impose deprivation of almost every kind on the Palestinians. We see in the news also that it agrees with what you're saying, that the demonstrations in support of the West Bank struggles in Gaza are filled with the green flags of Hamas. But I think it's important to let our outside viewers know that Muhammad himself is taking quite a chance. He was arrested once by Hamas for criticizing that government, even in a positive spirit, to say, can't we do this better? Isn't there a better way forward? And so forth. And he was arrested by them, and it was a very unpleasant experience in their captivity. So it really makes me admire Muhammad the more that he is willing to do these programs and to speak out frankly. Because as we've mentioned in other programs too, every commodity, every bit of food and any other kind of supply that comes into Gaza, its price is increased by taxes to Hamas, to PA, to the Israelis, and also by the oligarchs, the corrupt high level leaders that jack up the prices of every desperately needed commodity for the average people. A couple of months ago, Muhammad, who has I think, eight olive trees, they harvested their olives and took them, as always and traditional, to the local village press to have the oil squeezed out of them. And there was a person or persons from Hamas saying, I'm sorry, this year you have to pay $150 to have your harvest turned into olive oil. And if you don't pay, you can't do it. Now, where are these people supposed to get such money? It's insane. They're prisoners on three different levels. So, this is why we feel it's so urgent to remind you that through family to family, you can connect with, ordinary Palestinians and give them a little bit of help financially with which to try to continue a life and to survive. Mohammed, as you mentioned, casualties too. Watching, I think it's almost 100 Palestinians who have been killed through the raids this year. I mean, the year is 10 weeks old, and it's almost 100 Palestinians. The normal ratio has been 10 to 1, 10 Palestinians dead for every one Israeli. And if you've watched any of these programs, you know too from Muhammad, he does not support violent struggle. He does not support any kind of violence, and this is common to most of the Palestinian people. But as a recent program we both have seen says that when people are absolutely desperate and there is no hope, what do you expect? What do you expect except for people to try to free themselves and to get back to any kind of normal living that they can do? And they are fed up with the Palestinian Authority, they are fed up with Hamas and the dead end destructive ideas that their so called leadership has produced. So, Mohammed, I don't know how the Palestinian people at large can put up with this. I even know that in 2021, Mr. Abbas and the Palestinian Authority canceled an election. The Palestinian people would like to have an election to have fresh, young, bright minded new leadership to start to create a new way forward for them. But this was forbidden by the Palestinian Authority. Tell me more. How do you survive? You are not allowed to protest unless it's in league with Hamas, and if you do this, you will go to jail. How are you bearing up with these kinds of pressures?
In fact, brother, our life is a big tragedy. We are repressed not only from the occupation. Here in Gaza, we don't see the Israeli forces because we are sieged, as you know. Maybe in West Bank, the geographical situation of West Bank make them overlapping each day, every day,
Yes.
with the settlers, with the Israeli army. But here in Gaza, we are surrounded with a piece of fence and with tanks, guns. We are surrounded, we are isolated in this deserted island, and we don't see the forces in front of us. They doesn't cross our streets, our roads. So we haven't a daily interaction with them. Maybe here in Gaza, we doesn't suffer from the occupation like our suffering from the Palestinians, the Palestinian two governments. Here in Gaza, as I mentioned many times, if I want to buy any simple uh, thing from the market, I have to pay three taxes. one tax for Israel, second tax for PA, third tax for Hamas. So suppose if this boil of cooking oil, suppose its original cost is $1, I have to pay another $1.50 for the three taxes. Israel will take half a dollar, PA will take another half, Hamas will take third half. So the total price of this bottle became $2.50 instead of $1. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Okay, if I have good income, I I will not feel any kind of bad feeling. But at the same time, I almost have no income. So how can I live? How everything is expensive. Maybe I told you before we record this program, during my journey to build my house, I am doing like the player who used to gather the pieces of the puzzle. If I want to buy the components of the building materials, I have to call so many traders just to ask for small small parts.
Yes.
So yes, yeah. So here we haven't goods in the market because we are sieged. Even if I find them, they are very expensive due to the triple taxes. Also, I have no right to express my rights, to express my to have my liberties. I am totally silenced. I cannot talk. I cannot demonstrate. I cannot criticize. Besides that, I haven't the right to vote. Since 2005, 17 years ago, we had the last election in our history. So since that time, right now, 17 years, we have no elections here in Palestine. This is my right to choose my representatives, the people who are representing me in
Right.
the parliament, the ministers, the government, the prime minister, the minister. I am the person. I am the person who is allowed to choose them.
Yes, and you mentioned too that neither one, Hamas nor the PA, would survive politically more than 3 to 6 months unless they stopped getting money from outside countries, from Iran, from Qatar, from Turkey, countries that, as you have very frankly said, want to keep a thorn in Israel's side. They want to use the Palestinians, these living people, as a thorn in the side of Israel. And when the money comes from overseas, even from the EU and some little bit from the United States, there is no control, there is no supervision over the distribution of this aid. So it all ends up in the pockets of Hamas and the PA and the oligarchs who have first cut at the trough, and virtually nothing reaches the ordinary Palestinian people. Now, this week too has to me represented a kind of historical watershed in that we all know, and Mohammed and I know the Palestinian people by and large greatly sympathize with the fact that there were so many horrible events in Europe against Jewish people for centuries. Usually they were called pogroms, mob violence. This is the first time last week in Jenin and Nablus and Huwwara, I think was the name of the town, where Jewish
Exactly.
settlers came and simply burned the place down as severely as they could in a revenge attack for the murder of two Israelis. We do not celebrate or support that whatsoever. We hate all violence. But this pogrom was the first time that that word was used openly for the action of Israeli settlers against Palestinians. And even, I think his name is Smotrich, Mr. Smotrich, who just came to Washington to be pals with Joe Biden again this week. He has said we should wipe the place off the map. We should destroy Huwwara and get on with it. So, Mohammed, let me ask you this. The violence seems to be increasing again. Do you feel that Israel, with its extreme right wing government agenda, is now trying to provoke violence from the Palestinian people so that they have an excuse to attack them even more? How do the Palestinian people understand that? They are trying to provoke you into becoming violent so that they have a reason to attack you even more severely.
Exactly, exactly, brother. You are totally right.
I don't know how
This
you
is what
put up with it. I don't know how
this
you
is
handle it. Go ahead.
this is what's happening now. They try to provoke violence, and they push the Palestinians to launch attacks and military actions against the Israeli people. For me, as Muhammad, as a, as a, as a friend for you, I think you know very well my unchangeable opinion and belief. I am against any kind of military action, make any shed of blood, whether in this side or in that side. I am against that because I think now we are living in the 21st century. I think we have to get rid of all of those dirty kinds of struggle. We haven't to shed the blood of each other. I think other than this bad way, we have maybe other alternatives. Uh, I agree with you. Israel is trying to provoke the violence of the Palestinians. This is number one. Also, number two, I think Israel is trying to transmit its internal crisis, its internal political crisis between Netanyahu and the extremist Smotrich, Ben Gafir,
Yeah.
and the other ultra Orthodox Jews who are asking or who are looking forward to erase all the Palestinians from the Palestinian lands, or what they call it, Yehuda and Samira, according to their biblical terminology. So I think beside that, beside provoking the Palestinian violence, I think Israel is trying to transmit its internal political crisis to the Palestinians in order to let Hamas wage a war, to fire some rockets, in order to change the attention of the Israeli people to a confrontation with Hamas and to let them forget the severe internal struggle which is taking place now. If you are watching TV and media, you will see hundreds of thousands of Israeli demonstrators are
Mhm.
going to the streets of Tel Aviv and other major Israeli cities, making some sort of Israeli Cold War. Uh, Maybe this Cold War, maybe it will be in one day a civil war. So Israel want to change the attention of its people to a new confrontation with Hamas. Let them forget the sensitivity of this Cold War between Netanyahu and the ultra Orthodox Jews.
Mohammed, while we have 10 minutes, I'd like to point out one thing that the massive demonstrations we've seen in Israel in the past few weeks have been cued by Netanyahu's government attempting to change the terms of relationship between the government and the Israeli Supreme Court. to make the Supreme Court no longer a bastion of justice, but rather an arm of the government whose statements about the law can be overridden, can be voted away by the government, which is a virtual dictatorship. And yet those hundreds of thousands of Israelis, they are not protesting for the end of apartheid or for justice to Palestinians. They are worried about their own rights. And while I would support that, I truly would, it seems to me glaring that they do not mention Palestinian human rights. I mean, you want to ask them, how does it feel? How does it feel to have an overwhelming authoritarian power whittle away and attack your rights as citizens? This is what's been done to the Palestinians since at least 1948. And Hamas responds with what? Another round of rocket fire? What is that going to do? Mohammed, do ordinary Palestinians find any way at all to let Hamas leaders know that their ideas are foolish, that they have nothing to offer except more violence?
Yes, brother. As I told you, all of these military actions are worthless. They
Worse than
didn't
worthless.
achieve and will not achieve anything.
Yeah,
What? Yes, exactly. These are some primitive rockets. They are not targeted. Uh, um, you haven't the fire control system for
right.
these rockets. So when you launch it, it might strike an orphanage, a
Right.
school of some kids,
Right.
uh, a clinic, a clinic, a clinic, yeah, a supermarket. So this is craziness. I am totally against this. And again, I am saying I am against targeting or harming any Israeli civilian, because this will not help our Palestinian cause. This will not achieve any achievement for us.
Now, let me
If
ask
you
you one
want to
other
listen,
thing about let me ask you one other
yeah.
thing about Hamas. A person from Hamas might say, well, we have under the United Nations law the right to struggle for justice by any means necessary. That is United Nations language. By any means necessary, an occupied people can fight legally for their rights. But now we look at 2018, the Great March of Return. This was a completely nonviolent demonstration that the ordinary Palestinian people, at first without Hamas, they went to the border of Gaza, the fence, the barbed wire, the tanks, the snipers, and they stood there and said, we are here. We want to come out. We want to make peace with the Israelis and to move both our societies forward. And they were shot to death. There are films of Israeli snipers laughing while they shoot innocent Palestinians, the children, women, health workers, reporters, and nothing was done whatsoever. So it seems as though the Palestinians have tried both violence and nonviolence, and they are still in the same situation. What would you say, Mohammed, to a leader of Hamas to try to suggest that we need to create some kind of different effort? What would you say?
Uh, Brother, you know my opinion, you know my beliefs. Uh, for me, I am against the military action. Maybe other Palestinians are supporting this choice. I am not going to be a dictator, to say that my opinion is the righteous opinion, and no one has the right to disagree with me. This is my opinion.
Of course.
Maybe other people are supporting me. Some others are against me. The to solve the problem, to solve the crisis, I am asking Hamas to call for an election. Okay, Hamas, let us do an election and let us ask the Palestinian people, what are you going to do? What is your vision? Are you supporting the choice of Hamas, the military action, or you are supporting the negotiations and the peaceful action? We have to ask people. We have to ask people. So to solve this problem, to decide our choice, we have to make election, general election for a president, for a presidential election, parliamentary election, and to let people also do their other elections. Right now, all the syndicates they are not allowed to make their elections. The syndicates of lawyers, of teachers, of doctors, etc.
Yes. Now, I'd like to point out one
So
other thing too, is that in
yes,
2021, when Abbas and the Palestinian Authority refused to allow elections because it seems they know they will not be reelected because they have been such poor leaders and such corrupt officials, the Israelis like to say, well, there is no partner for peace. There is no party with whom we can negotiate on the Palestinian side. They don't have any leadership that wants anything but war and killing. But most people are not aware that in 2017, Hamas even amended its charter, which used to call for the end of Israel. And they say, no, we do not want the end of Israel to throw the Jews out or anything. We want an end to Zionism. It was Zionism that began in 1948 to truly destroy the fabric of mixed populations in the villages and towns and cities between Israelis, Jewish people, and Palestinians. As you mentioned in Shafir, your home village, there was a mosque, a church, and a temple. People got along. Zionism brought the disruption of
synagogue.
that. So to pretend on Israel's part that there is no party for peace, I mean, the PA and Israel are very much intertwined, and they don't want new elections because they don't want any kind of new, fresh possibility or discussion of peace to come about. We have 1.5 minutes, Mohammed. It goes
Yes,
by so fast. I'm sorry.
yes, brother. In fact, as I told you, brother, to to finish this interesting talk, I am saying again that the key to all our problems, key to solve all of our problems and the crisis is to making election. This election will decide the nation of the Palestinian people, whether they are supporting Hamas in its actions, in its aggressive actions, or they support Abbas and the PA in their political action.
Yes. So I would like maybe for our next program too, we could talk about some of the new young leadership among the Palestinians and what some of their ideas are. We don't hear very much about that in almost any of the media, even Mondo Weiss and Electronic Intifada. What do the young Palestinians want to do? What do they want to see? So, Mohammed, I think we're going to have to leave it there for now, but I thank you very much for all your insight and your contributions to the dialogue that I hope, well, maybe some few Israelis themselves might even see and give consideration to. Thank you, my brother. Continue the great work on your new home, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.